First off, I'd like to thank you for coming up with a motion tonight. I think that's important that you heard all the people that wrote letters to the editor and commented at the last meeting. When you made the motion on January 25th, it was one motion. It didn't have anything attached to it. It was one motion, and that was to approve. And so you had a vote of 4-3, and the idea was that the escrow would go back to St. David's. So if you're going to have a reversal of the motion of January 25th, it would simply be that. It would be that motion unto itself. It wouldn't have anything attached to it. What you're doing by taking this approach is just layering and making it more confusing. These people in this room, Bob, seriously, really want to trust all 7 of you. We really don't want to distrust our elected officials. I think it's really important that you know that. And if people weren't so concerned, they wouldn't have shown up in droves today. So I think if you're really trying to be honest and sincere, then I think what you do is you just make it right back to before January 25th. That's all you do. Now, if you want to propose a second motion to set up a subcommittee, that would be fine to do. That's your purview. You obviously can do that. But when you layer something and confuse it, and sure, you talk slow enough that some of us understood and some of us didn't, but the point is we had nothing in writing. There was nothing on the agenda that gave us any forewarning that you were going to do this. It said PATH. It didn't even say St. David's Golf Club escrow. So my suggestion, if you really want to start regaining the trust back of all these wonderful citizens here and the ones that are watching at home, you will simply make it right to what it was before January 25th. Simple. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything else beyond that.
Patty, I would only add that the agenda item which we placed there also didn't suggest there was going to be a motion to rescind.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's just stay the course here, Bob. The point I'm trying to make is you need to separate them. I don't want to argue with you. I just want to say that the vote on January 25th was to return escrow. The motion tonight means it should reverse that decision and take a vote on that and that alone, nothing else. Thank you.
Jane Yockey.
Hi, Jane.
Just a simple question. Why are they together and why aren't they separate?
I wrote the motion with the idea that this is a comprehensive response to a lot of the comments that we've heard from citizens, that we've received online at our township email address, and that frankly puts us on a path to get to where we should have been in the first place. That we're not talking about procedures or precedent, that we're talking about the policies that this township should be talking about relative to sidewalks, trails, and paths, and that frankly is something that we probably should have done some time ago. And we're taking those steps now, and that was the intent of the motion. I wrote it, spoke informally with a lot of people and found a lot of support for the motion, and that was the genesis of this, trying to move forward, not look back. There's no there's no deal, as someone said. This is just trying to do to move forward. And
Okay.
there's no ill intent. Mr. Camp.
Bob, maybe I can add something to that and also address Ms. Yockey's question. I mean, having been on this board for 6 years and been a keen observer of government over the years, I think I'm going to say something probably lots of you agree with. Government often is about compromise. This process right here is about compromise between this board and the voices of the people that have come in here and have spoken through various media and through the newspapers. And the compromise, as I see it, embedded in this motion, is not simply to reverse what occurred on the 25th, but to look behind what that vote was originally. There were 4 members of this board, as I see it, who were essentially saying by that vote that imposing on land developers on particular roads an obligation to put in a sidewalk wasn't quite right without a more thorough vetting. However, there were people in this community and people on this board who said that the way that that was done through the release of the escrow without having it on the agenda wasn't quite right. So we went through that meeting and heard about the fact that that wasn't the proper way to do it. We then went through another meeting where it was quite clear from comments from this community and from members of this board that that process wasn't quite right. But the notion or the motivation behind those 4 votes was to say to the government through the Planning Commission, we're not quite comfortable with the way this is being done. Now, we may not have used the right way to express that, the release of the escrow, but the point, nevertheless, is an important one. And this motion, by reversing the decision on the escrow, but then adding in an obligation that the government, the staff, the Planning Commission, and the Board of Supervisors get together and hammer out a list of priorities that will give guidance to the Planning Commission rather than just a comprehensive plan which has a map with lots of roads on it, seems to me to be a very good one. And the motion has to include that compromise, as I see it. It is a legitimate point, and government is often about compromising.
I don't,
Thanks, Warren.
I don't necessarily follow your logic, but that's okay. I don't see still why you can't do that with 2 separate motions. It accomplishes what you want, and it makes the audience members who have spoken up feel more comfortable with your actions. I don't see where it hurts you to separate those 2 actions. They'll be separated by possibly a few minutes, or you might even choose to advertise it, to table the second motion until later on when citizens feel more comfortable with it. That's an option. That's all.
It is, Ms. Yaki, but maybe your desire is that the compromise that I just described fail. Maybe
That's
that's it.
insulting.
Maybe that's it. And maybe this motion has the compromise embedded in it, and it should survive.
No, I agree. I agree that compromise is good, and I'm insulted by your comments, sir, and I don't appreciate it.
I'm sorry, Ms. Yaki, but we have up here been insulted several times tonight and in the past by comments, and maybe that is somewhat charged, my comments to you. I apologize for that.
I accept that. And while we're on the topic of apologies, we were very fortunate to have an apology from 3 of the people who voted for the motion on this issue that we're talking about, and I'm curious as to whether or not we will get a 4th.